Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're doing the next part for what if Cabba was in Universe 7 instead of Universe 6, and last time we left off, we saw our heroes in a spot of trouble, thanks to the fact Dr. Dro had released Android 16 earlier than canon, with the android causing a lot of trouble, and also making the fact that our heroes had to retreat from the first encounter with the androids much more urgent. Luckily, Cabba had managed to take down one of the androids, being Android 19, and this has left the group in a game of cat and mouse, with Android 16 chasing after the group while our heroes try and run away. And thanks to the fact the time traveler showed up, we join our heroes a few minutes after Raditz and Future Trunks had headed into the time chamber, with everyone else unsure of what to do, with Piccolo finally piping up after a few minutes, explaining how he'll be heading off to try and stop Android 16, hoping that his power will be just enough to pull out a victory. He's also gambling a lot on the fact that if he can jump the androids, he will definitely be able to stop that cell thing from becoming any stronger, with Piccolo now thinking that Android 16 is the android Cell is after, with the Earthlings joining the Namekian on this trip while the Saiyans stay on the lookout. Now, while this is happening, everything inside the time chamber is pretty much sort of going how Vegeta and Trunks did it in canon, with the two achieving new heights of strength, and the two bonding slightly closer than Vegeta and Future Trunks did in canon. They spend a lot of their time growing and advancing their Super Saiyan forms, up to the point where I believe they would have unlocked the Grade 3 state of the form, but luckily they did not try to push out to master the Super Saiyan state, leaving them at a point not too far from both Vegeta and Trunks. However, small changes will be things like how Raditz would treat his son. He would probably mould Trunks to become more Saiyan-like. After all, Vegeta didn't really have the patience for this, whereas I believe Raditz would. And it would also lead Raditz to pointing out the weakness of the Grade 3 state, making Trunks less likely to use it in a dire situation. Now, after a full day had gone by, Piccolo hadn't managed to find the androids, and leaving the time chamber, we see a much stronger Trunks, leaving the time chamber with a power level of 10 bil, and in Super Saiyan that's 500 bil, and we see Raditz with a power level of 12 bil, and in Super Saiyan that is 600 bil. With the two walking out of the time chamber, they get ready to head off towards the androids to stop Android 16. With the pair not really knowing where to go, they just head towards Piccolo's power. Now, like I said, not a lot has happened. The only bits of information I need to share with you is the fact that the androids did go towards Kami House. 16 learnt that Goku wasn't there not too long after arriving, and he and Dr. Gero decided to head off to one of the last two places they think to head to, which is going to be Capsule Corp, which means when Piccolo arrives at Kami House, he has no idea where to go, and ended up searching around the whole planet looking for them for a while. Android 16 and Dr. Gero are taking their time. This is mostly because Dr. Gero is fairly confident, and he sort of wants to push out his victory a little bit. After all, he likes the thought that Goku is squirming in his boots wherever he is. Now, we join Piccolo, who's searching around, not having any luck, when he's soon joined by both Raditz and Trunks, who begin to help him search. And after an hour or two of searching, Trunks has the ingenious idea of heading towards Capsule Corp, thinking that might be a good place to go and check. With the other two liking this idea, they head off in that direction. Now, up on the lookout, we see a Goku who's doing a lot better. He's still barely able to do anything, and for the most part he sits there sleeping, with the three Saiyans who are standing, talking, trying to figure out who should go in next. Gohan pipes up explaining how he would like to go in with his father, so if it's okay with Cabba and Goten, can they go in together? With Cabba and Goten being okay with this idea, after all, it's probably going to lead to them becoming much stronger, and Cabba already has an idea of what he wants to do when he gets into the time chamber. But the one downside is it's going to be a bit weird. After all, they don't really know each other, so when they head in, it's going to be trying to figure out how each other best trains. And once those two have head in, they hopefully want to come out stronger than Raditz and Trunks. And now, over with the two Saiyans I just brought up, we see Trunks, Piccolo and Raditz arrive at Capsule Corp. And when they arrive, Raditz heads in to check on his girlfriend, his wife, his sugar mama? That's probably the right one. And we see Bulma and baby Trunks there, plus Goten, with Bulma explaining how she got bored of being at Master Roshi's house, also the perv wouldn't stop giving her weird looks. And Raditz thinks to himself that he needs to clock that old man's lights out next time he sees him. But they do have a little bit of a nice talk before Raditz feels the energy of Trunks power up to Super Saiyan, and then it's followed by a loud crash, which cracked most windows around Capsule Corp. And after hearing this, he runs outside, seeing his son fly off in towards a direction. and Piccolo sort of stood there in shock at the boy's power, but soon snaps out of it and follows after, with Raditz following on behind Piccolo. What we missed while Raditz was inside was the fact that 16 flew up to Capsule Corp, and Trunks, not taking too kindly to it, reacted. After all, keep in mind, Trunks here has what could be considered some traces of Goku's DNA in his body. Keep in mind, he's not Vegeta's kid here, we're dealing with Raditz's son. So, the genetic connection there is very similar, and 16 might have seen it enough to engage in combat. 16's also losing his mind, by the way. He's trying to figure out where people are, but because there's so much life on the planet right now, which has sort of similar waves to Goku, it's really messing up with his scanner, hence why they haven't found a group yet. Keep in mind, we've got Goten, Gohan, Goku himself, Cell, Raditz, and future Trunks here. It's throwing him off a lot, plus Baby Trunks. It's very difficult for the android to find the right Goku. But over with the fight, we see Trunks, who had thrown Android 16 miles away. There is a small bit of dialogue exchange between Android 16 and Trunks, alongside Dr. Gero also being there. And the small bit of dialogue is just Trunks trying to ask Android 16 to stop trying to hurt his family, because he doesn't really want to take this too far. This isn't the android to destroy. These aren't androids 17 and 18. He might have a bit more patience here. Keep in mind, he doesn't even know they exist in this timeline, so he probably has a bit more leniency towards the androids. And once Android 16 goes back explaining how he needs to destroy Son Goku, it's what he's programmed to do, and Dr. Gero cheering this on, Trunks decides he needs to take him down finally. Trunks flies towards Android 16, landing some big blows straight into the android's gut, with 16 not really being able to counterattack. Trunks then sends 16 flying upwards with a ginormous uppercut, with the android being idle in the air for just a few seconds before he hears a sound, looks behind him and sees Trunks hammer-arming him straight into the ground, with this doing a fair amount of damage. And after this is done, Trunks is in a position to win. He begins charging up a Finish Buster, a personal favourite move of mine, and throws it down towards the android. 16 doesn't really have any power to stop this right now, and Dr. Gero is trying to get in the way to absorb the attack. However, he is so unsure of what he will do once his creation is destroyed in front of him. And Trunks, hardly having to try in his Super Saiyan state, shouts out to the android that this is for trying to kill his family, before sending the massive blast down towards Android 16. And after a few seconds, they hear an explosion miles off in the distance, and everyone sort of just clicked with what just happened. The fight was going so fast that no one was really keeping up, and we see Raditz and Piccolo looking down at a creature just stood there, with the back of its hand sort of burning a little bit. And the green monster turns around, explaining how he was doing this for a favour for his sibling. After all, that horrible attack would have destroyed him. But now he owes him, with the creature jamming its tail straight into Android 16's neck, trying to do something. However, it turns out to be a waste of time, as the mechanical man just sort of stands there unfazed with whatever the monster's doing. It then introduces itself to the lot, who are pretty shocked right now. That blast was Trunks going all out trying to kill Android 16 and Dr. Gero with the same attack. The monster introduces itself as Cell, with everyone in the group not really sure what to take of this. Dr. Gero is being so amazed, he's so impressed. This android shouldn't even be ready yet. He needs a few more years for it to be in any position to try and take him, be ready like this. Piccolo is surprised as well, as he remembers Cell being much different, much weaker, and is trying to figure out what happened. After all, Android 16 is still here. He hasn't absorbed him, so he hasn't got hold of the androids. And these questions are soon very fastly answered by Cell. He explains how he comes from a future. Two time travellers, which they might all know, pointing towards Trunks, and obviously indicating Goten, had time travelled from the place he came from. And they succeeded in their mission to be able to save the past, and came back with a certain button which destroyed the androids from their timeline. However, those androids were also something Cell needed to achieve his perfection. So he killed the two time travellers, took their time machine and also some of their energy, and came to this timeline where Android 17 and 18 were still going to be around. And now, he had achieved perfection, thanks to the fact Dr. Gero had left his siblings in the pods, making his time so much easier to get them, with this answering every question that was answered. And this is now really worrying to the group. Piccolo is so annoyed that he didn't even consider the fact there could be more androids. Trunks is mortified, and Raditz is really pissed off with the fact that Cell had killed his son from one timeline. Cell also goes on to explain how he found something else quite interesting in that, hidden base of Dr. Gero's. Himself! What an interesting fellow he was. He explains how he absorbed himself, which turned out to make him much more stronger than he even anticipated. And right now, Cell's power is nearly doubled what it normally would be, thanks to the fact he absorbed himself, giving him a double amount of DNA he had. Dr. Gero is shocked by the power of his creation, and this has left him speechless, but he also begins to laugh, knowing that Cell has the power to kill everyone on the planet, everyone who is defending Goku. However, Cell soon goes on to show how he wants to have a great fight. This is thanks to the fact there is probably a lot more Saiyan DNA in this version of Cell. After all, Cabba was here, and even though it's one extra person, that one extra person could mean the difference. And right now, he's just trying to find a good fight. And he figures that Raditz is probably the strongest person here. And he taunts the Saiyan, encouraging him to come down and fight him. Him going on to explain how this will just be a good warm-up until your brother gets here, right, Raditz? With this touching a nerve of Raditz's, he does head down to fight the Bugman, hoping to at least do some major damage to the bug, so whenever Cabba gets out of the time chamber, he can finish off the bug. But when Raditz turns Super Saiyan, he buffs up to grade 2 instantly, hoping that the minor increase will close the gap between them. For this match, I've put Cell at a power level of 1.2 trill, which is up against the Raditz of 660 bill. Raditz is in for a big fight, but let's see if he can do some damage. Now, with the increase in power, Raditz flies straight towards the android, going for a gut punch. However, Cell soon stops this attack, and Raditz then begins trying to hit Cell, trying to land a single blow on him. However, the book shows off the difference in power by just dodging all attacks thrown at him by Raditz, with the older brother of Goku getting super frustrated that he can't even land one hit, that all the training he had just gone through was for nothing. And after a few more minutes of trying to hit Cell, Cell finally lands the first hit on Raditz, making his nose bleed just from a minor jab. With Cell jokingly saying something, Raditz decides that his best idea is to use his strongest attack, and he shouts out Solar Flare, an attack he learnt from the Earthlings a few years ago, blinding all nearby spectators, with Raditz gaining some height and then charging up an attack he hopes will put the bug out of commission, or at least hoping to, injure him. He then starts charging up two of the biggest double sundays he can produce right now, with the attack beginning to shake the nearby area, with Gohan on the lookout sensing it, and is trying to figure out what's happening, and those in the nearby area of the blast start to get their vision back, with Cell not too bothered about this attack, and gets ready to take it head on, with the likes of Trunks, Piccolo, and 16 all beginning to run away, and the only person who stays nearby is Dr. Gero, hoping that his creation will, just block the attack, send it away, get him out of here. And he begins to praise his creation. The attack finally done, Raditz starts grinning, thinking that this attack should hopefully put Cell down, hoping to at least take something from Cell to make the match a lot more even. With him finally firing the attack, Cell originally goes to take it head on, and as it gets closer he loses his confidence. After all, this attack seems to have grown in strength, and this attack, when making contact with Cell, sets off a huge explosion. This following explosion wipes out Dr. Gero, who didn't move. With a huge smoke screen covering the nearby area, Raditz feels drained after the attack, and lets out a smirk, thinking that he just took care of Cell. And then the dust starts to settle. Cell is stood there, missing both of his hands. At the last minute, Cell decided he didn't want to take this attack head on, and went to catch it and throw it away. However, the strength of the attack was much higher than Cell anticipated, and it took his hands from him. Raditz does begin to laugh very briefly, with Piccolo and Trunks thinking they finally landed a significant blow. However, Cell regrows his hands, saying well done to Raditz, and thanking him for shutting up the Doctor. He was getting quite annoying. There's only so much praising perfection can get. After seeing this, Raditz is scared. That attack was pretty much the most incredible attack he has ever produced, and it has put everything into it. Cell walks up to the defeated Raditz, who is on the ground, not really moving, and Cell gets ready to kill him. Luckily for Raditz, Trunks cares for his father. Trunks shouts out offerings to give Cell a good fight, in placement of his father, but leave him alive. With Cell not really interested in the time traveller. After all, he caught the bigger fish, what's the point? And also, he sensed Trunks' energy earlier, and it was weaker than Raditz's is right now. However, Trunks, in a last-ditch effort, shows off the power of Grade 3, hoping to grab Cell's attention just a small amount. It worked, luckily. Trunks and Cell walk towards one another, with Cell being able to tell this fight will end fast, but he's looking forward to humiliating Trunks again, with Trunks just trying to buy time for Piccolo to get his father out of there, and this does work. This fight pretty much goes how it did like in canon, with Cell not caring too much and just enjoying the fight for what it is, sort of entertaining. Now, after a while, Trunks is defeated like normal, and much like normal, Cell does come to the conclusion he wants to do the Cell games, leaving Trunks alive before heading off to announce the big news to the world. While Trunks sort of sits there, realising he wasn't even worth killing. Realising that even though he trained for a year, he's still very weak. And this annoys him. Eventually, he picks himself up and heads to the lookout, with him getting ready to share the news that Cell just told him. And once he arrives, Raditz had finally snapped out of his trance. He looks over to his son, apologises, with the father and son having a moment, and suddenly a voice cuts through all of it. It's saying how it's nice to see that Raditz is finally growing a bit soft, with everyone turning around to see Goku, awake, feeling loads better, and before anyone can say anything else, Chi-Chi and Goku share a hug with one another, alongside Gohan, who soon joins in, with Goku jokingly shouting out to Raditz to come and join in with the family hug, but the older brother just sort of snaps quickly back before having a smile on his face, happy that Goku's back up. And after this hug is over, Goku gets serious very fast, sensing out what happened while he was out. He wants to go in with the time chamber with Gohan once Cabba and Goten come out, and they want to be ready for this tournament for whenever it should come by, explaining how he will play by Cell's rules. However, they are going to try and learn as much as they possibly can from Cell, with Raditz and Trunks explaining as much info as they can about Cell's fighting style, his techniques, with Piccolo helping out a little bit as well. Eventually, both Cabba and Goten walk out of the time chamber, both in Super Saiyan, having mastered the form, and are both happy to see Goku up and about. They catch up quickly and give Goku a rundown, but before I get into it too much, I'm going to explain their power levels. Cabba I've put at about 18 bil in his base and 900 bil in Super Saiyan. For future Goten, I've put him at a power level of 17 bil in his base and 850 bil in his Super Saiyan state. Raditz and Trunks start asking questions on how they got the idea to master the form, with Cabba going on to explain how he and Goku a while ago, once Cabba had unlocked the form, started talking how it would probably be a good idea to master the form. So Cabba tried putting it into theory, and he and Goten did manage to master it. Goku and Gohan heading into the time chamber. Well, they are about to, but they are soon cut off by the Earthlings who have flown up to tell the group when the Cell games are going down, with everyone so excited to see Goku's up, and Krillin, much like normal, rugby tackles his best friend to the ground, and the two are just happy to see each other, and eventually Bulma shows up with the two kids, and Goku keeps getting cut off before heading into the time chamber, but it's fine, they've got 7 days, and they're just having a good laugh right now. Everyone spends an hour with each other, having a laugh, trying to forget about the threat of Cell just for a brief amount of time now that Goku's back up. And eventually Goku and Gohan head into the time chamber. And like normal, these two do train to master Super Saiyan, and thanks to some advice Goten and Cabba had given Goku, it makes their time training in there much easier. Now, with Goku and Gohan experience with the Super Saiyan state, they achieved the grade 4 state of the transformation much sooner, and this is thanks to Gohan already having Super Saiyan. On top of that, both Goku and Gohan are very close to unlocking Super Saiyan 2. The only downside is they are falling just short. They haven't got the catalyst right now, and they are hoping that they will be able to tap into it if the Cell games are to go sideways. But after a full year of training, Goku and Gohan come out. Goku comes out with a power level of 20 bil in his base and 1 trillion in his Super Saiyan state. Gohan comes out with a power level of 22 bil in his base and a power level of 1.1 trill in Super Saiyan. With both leaving the room, they head home, where they meet the likes of their family, including the Time Travelers and Cabba, who is staying with Bulma in her holiday home currently. Everyone just has a bit of time to catch up and, have a good little bit of time together. And eventually, everyone begins to feel a lot more confident with the upcoming battle. After all, Goku seems very calm right now. Goku hasn't let on the fact that Gohan is currently stronger than him, not because he cares, but more so because he wants to see if he can take down Cell first before having to send Gohan in. After all, Goku learned over the time in this time chamber that Gohan isn't too keen on fighting, and he wants to try and avoid putting Gohan in there as much as possible. And the group spend their time for the 7 days just relaxing, and when the tournament comes around, everyone gets ready. And the first part of the tournament, where Hercule steps up to fight Cell, goes pretty much like normal, with the champ taking down Cell with such ease that the Z Fighters leave. It was actually incredible. Okay, let me get real here. Hercule gets clapped, leading to the first fight of the tournament. Starting with the first person to enter the ring. It isn't Goku, it isn't Gohan. It's kind of weird. And the first person wants to test their might up against Cell is Cabba. He steps down into the ring, explaining how the whole time he has been on Earth, he has not been able to repay the debt he owes to the people who gave him a second chance, to the planet that gave him a new life. And he wants to try and show them that it wasn't a waste of time saving him. With Cell and Goku being quite entertained by this, everyone watches over. Cell is curious about how strong Cabba will be, and Gohan just hopes that Cabba has the power to take down Cell. The battle begins with Cabba going all out against Cell straight away, with this catching Cell's interest. After all, he's quite strong here. The two charge at one another, with Cell not fully trying, but is certainly trying after that. After all, there isn't much difference between them, with the two landing very good blows on one another, and it eventually gets to the point where it's beginning to get clear that Cell is slowly increasing his power to make it so Cabba is having a harder time. And finally, in a last-ditch effort, Cabba jumps back, which leaves Cell to stand there weirdly for a second, and Cabba then drops into a weird stance, with Raditz noticing that the beginning of the stance looks a lot like Vegeta's Gallic Gun, with it then taking some aspects from Goku's Kamehameha. Not long after the attack is formed, it's clear Cabba is ready to fire it. Cabba shouts out Gallic Kamehameha, with the attack flying straight towards Cell, with the biomechanical bug going to flick it away, with him doing so very easily. However, once the beam was smacked away, he sees something fast flying straight towards him, with something hitting him straight in the gut, winding him briefly, and then he begins to feel a barrage of blows land on him. And this onslaught of punches is soon followed up by a donkey kick, straight into the air, with Cabba then flying up behind Cell, powering up to grade 3 of the Super Saiyan state, landing a massive hit on Cell, actually doing some significant damage, before dropping down to grade 4 and barraging Cell with a mass amount of ki. And hoping to beat Cell's regeneration, he finally stops after a few seconds of blasting. Cabba trying to catch his breath briefly after exerting a lot of power and using a lot of speed to do it. And after a few seconds, Cell is revealed to be missing massive chunks out of his body. However, he soon regens them, and applauds Cabba for the effort. However, he just wasn't enough, with Cell flying up and drop-kicking Cabba straight out of the arena, with the small Saiyan standing up, trying to justify to get back into the ring, but he's soon shut up by Goku, who walks into the ring, explaining how that was a great effort, but I think I've got this. With Goku not sure how he's going to do, he gets ready to fight. With this fight going a lot like canon, However, it's very possible that Goku does better than his canon counterpart, thanks to the fact that he knows how Cell fights, because Cell is mildly tired, also thanks to the fact Goku's a little bit stronger here. And this leads to Goku's punches leaving more of an impact. However, much like normal, Goku doesn't feel like he has the power. He feels like he just doesn't have the ability to take down Cell. And Goku, much like Cabba in a latch-ditch effort, shouts out to Cell that if he wants to fight, he will give him a chance to do something. With Cell being interested, he jumps back, and Goku begins to scream, and begins pushing out as much energy as he can. Gohan already knowing what his father's trying to do, he's hoping it works. With the ground around everyone beginning to shake, and lightning sounding like it's coming from Goku, Goku's aura begins to change, and his hair begins to get much more sharper, and his power begins to grow massively. Everyone watches with anticipation, and when Goku's power spikes up massively for only a second or two, everyone is amazed, even Cell. However, Goku's energy soon depletes very fast, and drops back to normal. With Goku now knowing that he can't tap into this form on command right now, he hopes that Gohan will be able to, with Goku stepping out of the ring, shouting down Gohan to come in. With Gohan being okay with this idea, after all Gohan is only just weaker than Cell here. And like normal, Goku does throw Cell a senzu bean, with everyone still reacting in the same way, other than Raditz, who sort of understands what Goku's trying to do here, but Cabba does lay into the adult man quite a bit. And this fight is probably quite similar itself. Gohan is holding his own a lot better, thanks to the fact there's not much of a difference in power. Cell is actually having to go all out, and Gohan is pushing Cell to the limits. Goku throughout the fight is periodically encouraging Gohan to try and achieve the form that he was so close to doing in the time chamber, and throughout the fight Gohan is trying to activate it himself, and for brief moments it does seem like he's about to. However, Cell doesn't really want to let Gohan do this, and is getting annoyed with Goku. He shoots out some Cell Juniors to try and shut the man up. After all, from what he sensed from Goku, the power Gohan might display will leave him at a massive disadvantage, so he sends out Cell Juniors to fight the group. However, the likes of Goku, Cabba and Future Goten here are probably enough to hold off their own little demons. Keep in mind, as long as it's a 1v1 fight, they should be okay. So when they are winning against their ones, they try and help out the people who are much weaker in the group. With this working for a short while, however, it soon becomes clear that because not everyone is the same strength, it's very hard for them to keep up. And eventually they get overrun, and they start getting brutally beaten down. With Cell not realising what he did, he's now just giving Gohan a catalyst to awaken. Gohan doesn't need a major push like he did in canon, he just needs one small push, and this was enough. Gohan then begins to scream, and it's not out of anger as much as it is out of just annoyance. Gohan is trying to activate it this time now. He's angry because of the fact that his friends are getting beat up, and this is just enough. And Gohan does achieve Super Saiyan 2 thanks to the fact of this. And Gohan wasn't trying to hide it here. Gohan is a much more comfortable fighter. He doesn't really like fighting still, but he's much happier in his role as a defender of Earth. Alongside this, the boy doesn't get too cocky thanks to him not being fully enraged, but he's just mildly pissed off. So Gohan goes on to beat into Cell very easily after taking care of the Cell Juniors. There is a massive difference in power here, and the Bugman realises this, and he tries to do anything he can, even considering blowing up for a brief second. However, Gohan just won't give him a chance. Gohan isn't being cocky, he's not fully enraged, and he's quite in control here. And at some point he manages to get Cell down to his knees, explaining to Cell that he hates this. He hates the fact he has to kill someone. He doesn't enjoy fighting like his father, his uncle, or even you. He just wants to lead a normal life. He just wants to be a scholar. He just wants to get married. Gohan doesn't care for this. However, he does care for his planet. He cares for the loved ones and the people he cares about on this planet. And this leads Gohan to apologise. But then he blasts Cell. He holds down his blast until he can't sense even the smallest part of Cell. And that's because Gohan left nothing of Cell. Not even the smallest particle was left from the android. And once this is gone, it leaves Gohan to drop out of his newly acquired form. He then heads up to his father, who begins to sing the boys' praise and explain how proud he is of him, before explaining to Gohan that he's sorry that he had to go through so much violence and so much fighting. It wasn't until they spent a little bit of time in the time chamber to realise that Gohan didn't really like it. Goku wasn't there for a lot of the time Gohan had to train, but he is happy that Gohan was willing to do this. And if Gohan doesn't want to anymore, Goku won't make him train, but he should always make sure he stays in shape in case something like Cell was to come up again. With Gohan agreeing to this, and the two share a hug before heading back home to Chi-Chi and Goten. With everyone being impressed and happy for the victory, they also head home. And this is where I'm ending this part. The Cell games ended in a way which left a lot less death. Gohan only needed the smallest push to achieve his new state, and that's because he was a stronger fighter here. He was probably a lot more comfortable with fighting, thanks to the fact that he got to know people like Cabba, who I believe would influence the boy in a positive way. After all, Cabba's not like other Saiyans. Cabba's a lot like Gohan in that sense. So the boy just was a lot happier as a fighter, thanks to the fact that he had someone to relate to, mildly. And also thanks to the fact that probably at some point Cabba had explained to Goku how Gohan feels about fighting, and this probably led to the father and son being much closer. I don't know if people will like this part. I liked it, I was happy with it. Honestly, it's weird, but this is one of my favourite what ifs I do. Like I said at the very start of it, I really like Cabba as a character, and even though he didn't really have much influence in this part, I believe the way he would have affected Gohan would probably help him achieve Super Saiyan 2. In the next part, I plan on doing some more stuff with Cabba, and the next part will probably be a 0.5 just to cover some minor stuff in between the Cell games and the Buu saga. But for the most part, I hope everyone enjoyed, like I already said. And I do want to say something, because I know if I don't say it, I'm not going to do it. I've got a Discord going. How I run it, I'm not too sure. I'm not too great with this sort of stuff. And for the most part, it's going to be a very much work in progress. I've got a friend who's going to come and give me a hand in a few days, but when you're reading this part, or watching it even, it will already be up, and it will probably be in the description actually. So if people want to join, please do. I would really appreciate it. After all, I've never expected to get as many subscribers as I did. I'm on like, at the time of recording this, 670 something. So I do appreciate it. And I hope everyone enjoyed. Have a great day or a good night, and I'll see you next time, guys.